question is directed to either of the speakers. I'd like to ask, in your opinion, what is the value of sports to a society? Because some people say that sports is mere entertainment. What are your opinions on this issue?
Playing sport particularly, it doesn't matter at what level you play it, I think it has tremendous value. Obviously, it has a value of health, because you just don't become somebody who's sitting in the library and studying, but there's also somebody going and getting some fresh air and running around a little bit. But I think just being with friends and, learning how to play in a team and learning qualities of discipline and hard work and fun, I think they're great values to learn, and sometimes you can't learn them anywhere else except on a playing field. So I think sport has great value.
Well, if I can add, the value of sports is not just about playing it. Sometimes it's about watching it. Don't talk about the English Premier League. I know some of you watch that on television at home. But, back in the day, the old Malaysia Cup, when I was watching at the old National Stadium, watching the Lions play Malaysian teams or international teams for that matter, with 50,000 people alongside me wearing red, cheering for the same team, I've never felt more Singaporean than I did in that stadium. Apart from the National Day, of course, but that's another matter entirely. But this is something that is pure. Sports is something that is pure, something that can unite the country, and I think that's a value that cannot be overstated.
On the topic of fair play, do you think that the reason people focus less on fair play nowadays is because the media focuses too much on winning and not on good sportsmanship?
I think that's a really good point. I think that everybody focuses too much on winning. I think therefore the media as well. I think that because sport has become such a big business and there is so much money at stake, we are talking millions and billions of dollars, I think that sometimes managers of clubs or coaches are willing to tell their players that we don't care how you win as long as you win. And I think that's a wrong message, but it's in professional sport, they don't really care about these things. There are some who do care, but their voices, you're right. I think it is the job of the media to highlight sportsmanship, I think, and fair play, probably a little bit more than they do. And probably for writers to write a little bit more about sport than winning, because not everybody wins. Not everybody can. Only one team can win at the end of a Premier League, or one player is going to win at the end of a tennis tournament. And so not everybody wins, but I think there has to be a value in sport beyond winning. And I think if we talked a little bit more about fair play, it would be great. So I think you're absolutely right.
I'd like to ask, how much of a success do you think our foreign talent program has been? And do you think there's any way we can make it more sustainable for Singapore in the future?
How do we judge how good a foreign talent is? Is it by the medals he brings in or by the legacy he leaves behind? I think it's a mixture of both. At the moment, we've got athletes like, the table tennis girls who go on to win an Olympic medal for Singapore, so that's good. But then we've got so-called, bad hats who play truant, go AWOL, argue with officials, don't make it. So there's always a flip side to it. And like any formula, there's no perfect formula to this particular equation. But I think what's important for the foreign talent scheme is that if it succeeds, it must fail immediately. What I mean is that if it gets to a point where the foreign talents are so successful that they've managed to influence our local athletes, raise their bar of skills, and gotten them to improve to the point that they're on par with the foreign talent, then it's time maybe to say we can call it a day. But I don't think we're at that point yet, and the policy still probably needs a little bit of refining. Do we need a quota for different sports? Maybe for football, since it's a team sport, maybe you can naturalize a maximum of 3 players a year. And for something like athletics, maybe 1 athlete a year. It may or may not work because it's hard to judge what's a skill level of an athlete. You can't just say, in swimming it's easy, you have a certain timing to meet, but in football, you can't quite put a judge on how many step overs do you do, or you're welcome to come to Singapore, you're the next Cristiano Ronaldo. It doesn't quite work that way. Success-wise, I would say for table tennis and badminton, it's been very successful. They're mindful of the fact that very few locals are in the senior national team, and they're trying to do more to bring up local young people to take up their respective sports. So, for example, like the Table Tennis Association, they do a lot of outreach programs. They meet young school children across Singapore to try and inspire them with their stories of success and medals, and hopefully that to me is the more important yardstick of success. But at the moment, the short answer to your question, it's a mixed bag so far.
Do you think taking a break from sports due to NS may hinder our young sportsmen's chances at making it big at a professional level?
You can't ever compare protecting the nation to playing sport, so let's leave that out of the argument. But if you want to take it from just a pure sporting point of view, yes, it does hurt, because I think it happens. Athletes become better slowly. It's a very gradual process of becoming very good, or even perhaps one day becoming great. And everybody trains very hard. I mean, I met a very famous athlete in India. I was in India last week, and he's one of India's greatest athletes who I was talking to when I asked him that, which athlete does he admire the most? So he told me Michael Phelps, the swimmer. So I said, why Michael Phelps? So he said, because Michael Phelps only took 2 days off in 5 years. In 5 years between, I think this was before Beijing, the 5 years before Beijing, he only took 2 days off. He was training the rest of the time. So it's very, very difficult to be a champion. So I think if you go away from your sport and you stop training or stop training with that intensity, it's very difficult to come back to that level. But there can be more important things in life than sports. So that's a separate matter. But yes, I think it obviously makes it very difficult for an athlete to stop and then again find that standard. That is very, very difficult. It's too competitive out there for people to do that.
Well, I think if you look at Singapore sports, most of the medals and trophies, I mean, we haven't any hard figures at the moment, but anecdotally, the women win everything. The men are a little bit behind in terms of performance, at least in Singapore. So national service has always been bandied about as one of the possible reasons why the women beat the boys when it comes to sports. I remember getting this phone call from the father of an athlete whom I shall not name. He said, my son is in the NS now. He's a driver. As a driver, he sits in the 3-ton truck for many hours and he hurts his back. Can you get him out of NS? So I told him, of course, it's not within my purview to get him out of national service, and in any case, you should take it out of MINDEF. Well, what MINDEF has done is actually they have a sportsman scheme, which basically it's on a case-by-case basis, whereby they give talented athletes, leave, or they can get out of camp for training. It's not a hard and fast rule. It doesn't say that, you're a champion sportsman, you automatically get into this scheme, because it has been abused before, and I think that's the main consideration. Because how do you balance sports and the need to send out a message that your national duty applies to everybody? So that's a conundrum that probably the government is facing at the moment. Whether or not it affects sports, I think for certain sports it definitely does. Swimming, I think you peak at that age when you go into national service, or that's an important phase of your training. When you come out, you're not quite the same, because obviously you've been toughened up, or you become more skinny, or the training takes its toll on you. So it definitely affects certain sports. But if it's something like chess, it doesn't matter, right? But if it's swimming or athletics, even, I think there is a definite impact, and the MINDEF sportsman scheme will have to maybe take a look at how it chooses its athletes, and how it sort of gives them leeway to train and to combine their national duty at the same time.
What do you think is the main reason, as in the main thing which is holding back student athletes from becoming pro, as in pursuing a career as an athlete?
Do you want to become a full-time sportsman?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
You look like you play rugby. Do you play rugby?
No.
Okay. What sport do you play?
I'm in canoeing.
You're in canoeing. Okay, we've got a canoe. Well, this Olympic Games we have a canoeist, Geraldine. She's going to the Olympic Games as well. So, you want to become a full-time canoeist?
I don't mind.
You don't mind? Okay. Have you told your parents?
No.
Why have you not told your parents?
I think they might think I'm crazy.
I think you've got your answer right there. I think the main problem, I think this is across the board in Singapore. Doesn't matter which sport you're doing. Your parents ask you, what do you want to do when you grow up? Well, that's fine as long as you do what I want you to do, right? So, be it a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, whatever. Sportsmen, I mean, at this point in time, sports doesn't have that level of prestige. I mean, you've got a couple of $1 million athletes like maybe Remy Ong or the table tennis girls who bank like $250,000 for an Olympic medal. But at that point in time, at this point in time, it's just not as prestigious. And parents, I think, don't understand that there is diversity is important when it comes to choosing, or rather, when it comes to giving their children the latitude to choose what they want to do. But we need more people like you, for sure. You look at somewhere like the United States where they have maybe, I think it was 4 million athletes in a population of 300 million. And in Singapore, we only have about 1,000 full-time athletes, maximum, We can't go anywhere with that kind of number. And we need more people like you. And I suggest you tell the parents soon and see what they say. They might surprise you.
We do come from an academic culture that happens in Asia a lot. We focus more on academics or whatever. But I'm a great believer in following one's dreams, that everybody should follow their dreams. And even if there are handicaps, and because the culture in a particular country, or could be a school, or could be anywhere, doesn't always promote sport, and you don't always have coaches or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you want to follow your dream, you have to really, well, there's no other way to say it, but go for it. I just watched a beautiful film about a small little town in Africa where great runners come from. They don't have very good food, they don't have a great track, they don't have great facilities, but they just work hard and they're chasing their dream. And I think you don't look at the negatives, look at the positives. Think of how hard you can work and what you need to do, and I think that'll be great.
Thank you.
Good luck.